so excited to talk today on this panel. So I got into my physician research right after graduating. Actually, my previous PI as an undergrad directed me to the physician, and I was able to apply. It's a new lab at the biological science department, and they study cellular metabolism, specifically lipid trafficking and metabolism at organelle contact sites. So it's a lot of bench work and a lot of basic science work. And I run preliminary data, like early for grant submissions, and as well lab management, making sure everything safety-wise is kept. The graduate students have all the reagents they need, equipment, and so forth.
Hi everyone. So I really kept an open mind about what I wanted to do. I just knew I needed research. So I went ahead and I applied. I was already going into my master's program at Hopkins, so I went ahead and applied at Hopkins. Sent like so many different applications out, but I found one that was pretty specific to my background. I majored in kinesiology with a minor in substance use intervention, prevention, and treatment. So I saw opening in addiction medicine and went for it, and I've really been enjoying that so far. My research now is I'm coordinating a clinical trial, so it's, I review charts, I see patients every day to do the informed consent. I do a lot with the IRB. We can talk about more later with that, with central and local IRB, coordinating that, work with pharmacists, social workers. So I do a lot of patient work. It's less bench work on my end. So
that's wonderful. Can you hear me? Great. I'm delighted to be here. You won't believe how happy I am. Like that, my dream became true. And honestly, I could have tears. 2018, we started the initiative of NAAMA NextGen. We had 2 chapters. I had to say that. I know that I'm in the research panel and I should talk only about my research, right? But now, with NAAMA NextGen having 22 chapters throughout, or probably more even, I cannot keep up anymore, throughout the country, it is my dream, honestly, became true. So I would give it to all of you, and please give yourself a big hand for me, okay? To see all of you here, standing here, and this is completely student-run conference today, so I have nothing to do with it, and I'm so proud of each one of you being here this Saturday morning. Each one of you, just being sitting in this room, is a researcher, and you'll do great. What would I tell you about myself? Oh my God, how would I say 30 years in 2 minutes, right? But let me tell you, I was shocked when I became interested in research. I was never thinking about I would even reach, honestly, when I left Syria, I did so wonderful in the medical school, and I thought, well, I should do better for my life. My dad, I was single, sent me to, Germany. It's closer. The state is far away, and I go by myself. No way. So I spent 3 years. I did not like it. I can tell you frankly. So I left Germany. I came to the state. I finished step 1, 2, 3. Applied for residency. Pathology was my, destination. In retrospective, I would do anything but pathology. Being a pathologist, you have that the curious mind, I would say. Yet this is what's research. You need the answer for knowledge. You have the questions, you need the answer for it. And I started when I was a resident by looking at, it was very big hot BRCA, like breast cancer, and especially in Jewish population because they marry from each other, the Ashkenazi. So well, Arab people, they do the same. I know, my probably mom had in her family cousins married, frankly. So why not investigating breast cancer in Arab population? And that was my first project, and it got published, and we managed that clinical, and believe it or not, from Syria I got blocks, breast blocks, peripheral blocks. Was it legal or not legal? Don't tell anybody, that was 30 years back. I got them from the university. I came to Henry Ford Hospital in a lab. We did LOH, and I did PCR. So it was both clinical and basic research. And from there I started. We had it submitted as an abstract. It got published as a paper. And then I'm like, wow, that's wonderful. That's interesting. I can do it, right? And then you get a questions, you get a data, you work with the right people, and from there, now I go forward 30 years. I have 140 papers. I mean, I don't know how many grants, probably my name on 30 grants. Some of them PI, co-PI. It's from, like direct cost to, I want to, burden you with all of that. But yeah, this is what I built a portfolio, and I could say I am a researcher. And if you have any questions for me, so I'm here for you guys. Okay? But this amazing women, and I'm delighted to be with them as well. Get to believe it that we are 4 women, and nothing against men, it happened to be this way. Okay, thank you, Tala.
Thank you guys for those intros. So Dr. Ali, you started talking about it a bit, but I know this is a very basic question, but I think research is highly, sometimes you guys unapproachable. For a lot of undergrads, and even as a medical student, I was not able to break through into research until my 3rd year, and I found that there was a lot that I did not understand. So I was wondering if we could start out by just laying down what is research, what is the research process, and kind of more of the technicalities. So we'll start there and see where the conversation takes us.
I will just mention a couple of words and I'll let you keep going. So never feel there is nothing you can accomplish. Never. If you really want to be in research, keep pursuing it. There'll be somebody like me. How many people in my team? I mean, at some point we had 25 people. Okay, we did the obesity project with Access. So reach out. Reach out. Send emails. 100 of emails is fine, but keep reaching out till you find your mentor or your partner. So this is my advice. The second one, what's research? You tell us. What do you think about it?
Right. So what research is generally, research can be a lot of things. So as you will hear from all of our panels here, is benchmark research is very different from clinical research, but they do follow some key important facts. You want a question. You want to be interested in some topic that you think has not been explored or has lack of knowledge. So you grab hold of that concept, you do a lot of literature research, you do a lot of literature work, see what's out there, see what can be explored, and then you move on from there. So since I started in a new lab, we had to basically start from scratch. My PI obviously had a lot of previous projects she had planned, so we took a hold of one project, and it was very early on. So you want to have a very general question first. For example, you get a gene of interest, you have the knockouts, and you want to see where can we go from there. In coordination with other projects in the lab, we go, okay, let's look at phospholipid synthesis. So we run very basic experiments like growth assays, lipid droplet imaging, just stuff like that to see something that stands out. Once you grab a hold of that thing that stands out, you just kind of pursue it with all you got, all the methods, all the procedures that you have. So that's kind of how I view the backbone of research and how you can navigate that. Because if you don't have some kind of plan, it will be very overwhelming. And then on your question on how students can reach out and get involved in research, as an undergrad, I definitely wanted to do a directed study as part of my bio major. So I went to the biology website on Wednesday, I looked at all the faculty, and I'm like, this is a lot. So I looked at the events that the department had, and they had a biologic science research open house. So I went there, I was late to class, but it was worth it because I got to meet a bunch of different PIs, their research, their students, and I got to see the feel for each lab. From there, I jotted down all the emails I could and just started sending. You never know which one's going to be the right one. So from there, always keep in contact with your PI mentors. Even when COVID hit, my project stopped, but I kept going to those virtual lab meetings. You keep in contact because he's the one who actually directed me to my current position. You never know when your mentor can be there for you, even when you're not seeing them in person anymore.
Yeah, to add to that, I agree with both sides of things. Research on the clinical side, at least, was a little bit different for me because you don't really think of the question yourself. There's a lot of room for side projects, but the project was pretty much set up for us, considering it's a multi-site clinical trial. So some person was like, I want a couple sites to do this clinical trial for us, so it wasn't really like a chance for me to be like, oh, here's a question, let me search through that until all our data is done and I can do some work with what we collected. But yeah, there's still room for side projects when you head the clinical route, especially if you have a really good connection with your mentor. My PI, I have a really great connection with her, and she helps me a lot sort through what I want to do because I want to explore more things. So start more side projects and things like that. So would really encourage networking. Make sure you make a lot of connections, put yourself out there, do not be afraid to put yourself out there. You're going to get some no's, but you're going to get some yeses eventually. Just be persistent.
So I love both answers, right? You got to be curious and ask the questions and pursue that, or get involved in something already being started and have that, on the side. So both are right. The only things that you need to ask yourself, do I want this? If you want it, pursue it. So there'll be so many opportunities. You'll be surprised how many professors they want you guys, but so you reach out and that you get that connection. And as Layal said, there'll be a lot of no's, but when you are persistent, and this is what I get, and you can ask my research assistant, they are here, I have students here. Not first time they knocked on my door, they reached out, they came to my office actually. It's not only the email. So first time, second time, third time, I'm like, oh, okay, let me see. Who's this student that they are he's or she very interested. So I met with them, I interviewed them. And at the same time, I'll tell you, I had a student from Gaza University. He emailed me, and he was my research assistant 2 years back. He's from Gaza University with a wonderful score. I could not answer him, and actually we got him here with a J1 who sponsored him, and he did amazing. Rami was my research assistant last year, and you know him probably very well. He published 2 papers, and he was on 4 abstracts, and he's a resident now doing internal medicine in Cleveland. So again, Rami was persistent, but with his circumstances, I couldn't say no.
That's awesome. And I will say, reach out to people you wouldn't think, like if your friend is in a lab. Anytime my friend is doing research, I'm like, hey, if you guys have a spot open up, please reach out. And just reaching out to friends, or if you're at, my sister was at another friend's engagement party, and she sat and talked with this girl they just met. She got her on a research project. So, it doesn't have to be always in the traditional sense. If the emails aren't working for you, if there's a certain department that you're not getting into, reach out to a different one. Really use all of your resources. So going on.
Sorry, I have to say, use NAAMA NextGen.
Yes.
This is why we're here. This is the community that connect, and even not to me personally, between you would know exactly, friends. You would know opportunity, you would know a professor. Let's say Rami knows somebody, Zena knows somebody, Tala knows somebody. This is your community.
And help people out too. When you help people out, honestly, it's very cyclical. Things will come back your way. There's enough room for everyone to do research. There's enough room for everyone to volunteer and get involved and make connections. Okay, so going on with some of the stuff you were saying, I was wondering if we can go into some of the technicalities. And some of the words are very foreign, such as IRB, or abstract, or a protocol, or a manuscript. And I think these are, I found myself just Googling, what is an abstract? Because no one really, there's no class that's a research class on how to do it. So I was wondering if you guys can go into that side, because I think that's where a lot of the students fall in. Go writing an abstract, go writing an intro, and how do you kind of do that? So maybe starting with the IRB.
Right. Before the IRB, educate them. When you want to start any project or any research, what do you do first, and then the IRB? Educate yourself about all of this ethical questions and
Well, there's a a lot of training. You're definitely not by yourself when you first start out with the IRB. IRB is an institutional review board. They basically make sure all the ethical things are sound and legal aspects of your project are sound, and many other things detailed. It's going to be a little bit different for each institution, but for example, when you're working with a clinical trial, a lot of times you have a local IRB at the site that you're at. For mine, that would be Hopkins, and we're working with a central IRB. And so basically you have to make sure your project is sound at both the local level and at the central level. Lots of back and forth with just making sure regulations are together. But you're training. You're trained for all this, basically. So I wouldn't let all the legal and ethical aspects of things scare you. It is a lot to figure out though, and you need to be a self-starter to really work through all of that. I personally was hired as a research assistant for a time and then worked my way up to be a senior research coordinator by the work that I did with the IRB. So it was really a lot of self-starting and figuring it out yourself. Lots of emails, do not be afraid to ask questions. The IRB is a monster.
It is in a way. It is in a way. When you, like, any project you cannot do without an IRB. And why we do that? This body of any university is to protect the dignity of the patient, the human right that we cannot validate. So any research we have to get the approval from this body. And you cannot touch any chart, any slides in pathology, any blocks without having IRB approval. So it is the body for any university to protect and follow up with your research. This is important for it. Yeah.
If that does scare you, basic science research has IRBs, but as an undergrad or a student, you would probably not be as involved. So playing with yeast cells, mammalian cell lines, bacteria cells, you're not going to have to worry about that much.
Agree. Yeah. So to go back to your questions, how about abstract and poster? And like today we have few people submit abstract, they end up having posters or platform. So whenever you have a project and you work on it for so long, there'll be so many conferences you want to present your work. You know, it could be in the university, it could be in a local conference like this, it'll be in a national conference as well. So you submit an abstract. This is what we call abstract. It's a summary of your project. And it is so condensed, which is so difficult to write about your project in a very small format. Like you put the whole thing in probably one page. And then it goes to, and here we made an example, a committee, blindly, they will evaluate the abstract. And this goes in every conference, reputable, bodies. They go completely blinded from the name and the institution. So when you submit to NAAMA, honestly, I don't know who got it. We had a committee, we got the names out, and they put a score for you guys, who got what. And then, you tabulate the scores, and then first, second place, third place. And this is, so the abstract. When you get accepted, it's either a poster format, like the way we have it here, you write everything in a poster, or a platform or oral presentation. But this is not enough. Never stop there. And there are so many students who will say, oh, I got it one line in my CV, it's a great for my, no. Keep going to the paper. This is the paper, you leave a legacy and you would add to the literature. And I mean it, okay? So the paper is your final word, and you will teach each one of us about it. And then you should not stop there. If you really want to pursue research, you should apply for a grant. There'll be so many, and then this we'll talk about it next. Okay. So
Great segue.
yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about the grant?
Yeah, so grant writing can be overwhelming. In a grant, you want to have it very organized in your background information, the information that the reviewer needs to know. Then you move into your aims. Your specific aims are going to be why you are tackling the specific project. Those have to be very fleshed out. And you have to explain the specific methods you'll use, why you are using them, and what you'll do from there. A lot of grants also ask for breakdown of funding, like allocation of funding. What are you going to use our funding for? So you have to also have that very thought out and say, okay, I'm going to use this amount of funds for actual reagents, this amount of fund for getting the lab space or bench space, or even a stipend for students. So grants can be a lot, but there's a lot of resources online. You can always reach out to your mentor about how to structure a grant, but definitely try to apply to any undergraduate grants you can find. You never know which one is.
I fully agree. I cannot add more.
I don't really have any experience with the grants, so
Great. Thank you, guys. I feel like that was really great, just definition of the basic parts of the research project. So going off of that, going into more of like the practical application for our students. We talked a little bit about reaching out, using your networking to kind of get on a project. The next is kind of just, what do you guys think is a practical role for an undergrad student on a project? And as people who lead projects and mentors, what do you think is a reasonable time commitment that you would expect from a student?
All right, I guess I'll start. So I did undergraduate research in my junior year. I started like the summer before and all throughout until COVID hit. So as an undergrad, a lot of the first couple of weeks are going to be observations. And even the undergrads I train right now, they follow me. They basically shadow me around. I call them my little ducklings. We go around the department. So they will basically be watching everything I do. How to make sure your bench is clean of contamination and how to stay working under the flame. How to use certain equipment to image your PCR gel or your Western blot. Certain things like that just need introduction. And the first thing I do is give my undergraduate researchers a notebook. You need a research notebook to write anything and everything down. You never know when you might need them later. And you'd be surprised at how easy someone forgets things. So a lot of the initial stuff is going to be you watching graduate students and master students, a research assistant, and then you will move on into your own individual project. Here it will be more hands-on. You're going to feel like you're not knowing what to do, but you can always get guidance from students there or your PI. So the time commitment, I would say, always prioritize your classes. I know research is important, but your classes come first. Make sure your GPA is still fine, you have time to study, and then when you have the free time, it's important to have the time management when you're balancing research and coursework. As an undergrad, I found it a little difficult, and then I got into a groove and then continued through. Now it's just my full-time job.
So it was a little different for me. I didn't get involved in research in undergrad. I didn't know how. And then I hit after and realized I need it. The time commitment for me, it was my full-time job, and then I took night classes for grad school. So I made it work. But if you're the type who does not like smushing your days into 12 hours straight, do not do that. But there's I do mentor a student fresh out of undergrad. He's my RA, I would say that's more reasonable for when you're in undergrad because it's not really that. If you have a good coordinator and you're able to kind of split time and divide work in a way that's reasonable, and someone who's open as your mentor to be able to split work into a reasonable time commitment that you're comfortable with, I would say the RA position is more so manageable if you're open to making it work and then can coordinate with your supervisor. But when you get into coordinating and stuff, it's a bit more of like a mentor role, hands-on. So I would pick for that in a way where you can make a full-time commitment for that.
So let's see here. How many of you are working in research? Raise your hand. Wow, that's great. That's so wonderful. So probably you know more than us, right? That's great. So, but always remember, your school comes first. Absolutely. Never jeopardize your GPA. And this is my son here, and I'm like, this is for him. Okay? So be always very, very minded of your classes as well. Don't take that out. Your research is great, it's a wonderful opportunity, but don't let it affect your classes, you know. You can put 2 hours, 3 hours, and I'm sure your mentor will let you go when you have a crunch time, or when you have an exam, or tell them that, for sure. But that's amazing.
Yeah, I think something they don't teach us really well as pre-mental, pre-health is boundary setting. It's really important to have your boundaries and say, you know, if you're going to commit 1 hour, commit it. It's not going to be 100% there. Better than not being honest with your PI or the person you're working with, showing up, like, I have to leave early, and, you know, just stay organized. You also have, you know, the right to your own time, which is actually a perfect segue, kind of leading off of what we were saying. You know, we've heard it over and over, find good mentors, someone who will, you know, kind of guide you, lead you, whether it's a medical student or even a resident down the line. So I was wondering, how does one find a good mentor and establish a relationship with someone who is willing to mentor and dedicate time to them?
So let me just quick mention my 2 cents. I had so many students throughout my career, right? And it's a chemistry, frankly. You know, as simple as that. You might like the mentor, and you would be really showing your best. And believe me, then the mentor will give you everything they have. They'll be for you, you know. So, and showing your hard work, your dedication, they will love working with you. But let's say this didn't work. It's fine. It's not that you are not a good student or this professor is not a good mentor or not a good professor. It didn't work out. It's okay. You know, move. Find somebody else. And it's not a bad idea to have multiple mentors. You know, I do still now have a few mentors, not one. And you always need a mentor. You know, so keep trying. And it is a chemistry. It's a relationship. And all my students, I really love them. Some of them, they left. It could be like, it didn't work out. It's okay. It didn't make me a less professor. Okay? So just like my 2 cents. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah. I find when it best for me personally, I like to be just fully transparent from the start about everything, and I feel like that's a way to just immediately become close with somebody. It's worked really well for me. You know, just transparent with, these are my goals, this is what I'm here to do, and can you support me with this? And it's worked out really well. So I would definitely push transparency about what you're here for and what you're here to do, and if they can support you with that, so that you can start off the bat with a really open and honest conversation. And then, yeah, like I want to echo what Dr. Ali said, the multiple mentors is fine, and you're going to need a different mentor for different things in your life and not just your career. So yeah, keep it open and keep it transparent would be my biggest advice for that.
Echoing off what Layal said, so when I first interviewed with my PI, my current PI, she asked me what my future plans are. I told her I'm applying to medical school this date, I'm planning to retake my MCAT, blah, blah. So she accommodated all those time commitments that I'm going to have. Studying for MCAT, I studied for a longer time than before, so she accommodated that. She had, during winter, less work on my shoulders. And just being honest with your PI can help you on the long run a lot. And always speak with the students in the lab, get a feel for how they have things going on. If a student is saying, oh, sometimes she maybe rushes me on certain things, or if that's not something you like, there's no shortage of PIs or researchers. There's always labs open for undergrads. So definitely just ask opinions around, and then once something actually clicks, be very transparent as everyone else here said.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We now want to open it up to the audience to ask questions. There is no stupid question. You're amongst researchers, so we love questions.
I remember this session for you guys.
Yeah.
So anything comes to your mind.
And I will say research is humbling. You will grow so much. I started out knowing nothing, and in a few months you just it's a big learning curve. So if anyone has questions, please don't be shy. Awesome.
Well, number one, it's wonderful that they ask they want to do research. This is the first step I like to see. Being a pre-med student, or you don't have to be a pre-med student, but most likely coming to me, they're a pre-med student. So they have a goal in their mind, right? And the second quality, for sure, hard working. So I don't take any student. They work so hard, and they need to know if I give them an assignment, they go a step ahead even. And they be very prepared every time they come. And as Tala said, it's a commitment. So when they commit and they work very hard, and not that I tell them, oh, you need to work 12 hours with me. Absolutely not. But let's say you commit for 2 hours, I'm expecting you this 2 hours to be there. And start sharp, on time, and do the job perfectly. Then I'll keep working with you. But if I see a student, I'm like, this is not too serious, believe me, I can see through their eyes. They won't last more than a couple of weeks. But I'm in touch with most of the students who are very good and hardworking. So hardworking, if I answer your question. Other question?
As someone who's never done research before, my question is more like, how do you find the right research for you? Because I would be afraid to commit to something and then waste my PI's time or RE's time and then realize that this is not for me. So do you guys have any tips on that?
I can speak to that. I didn't have any research experience before I started at Hopkins. So I took a lot of time reading every single application I submitted, what's the requirements, what's expected of me, and really reflecting with myself about what do I really enjoy so I don't get sick of this, right? Because that's the most important thing is there's a bunch of really flashy research out there with surgery and cancer, really the ones that everybody looks at, right? But there's also a lot of other research that I personally found more enjoyable because I knew I wouldn't like bench work. I knew I wanted to interact with patients, and I knew I wanted to have that, practice that, because that's what I enjoy. So really just follow what you yourself that you would enjoy. I would also encourage if you want to try out bench work, if you want to try out other types of research, to just ask if you can watch, get into networks where you know people who do that, and be like, oh, can I tag along with you? Can I watch what a day in your life looks like? So yeah, lots of reflection, but follow what you want to do and what makes you happy.
Perfect. I cannot add more. And again, when I was in medical school, I never thought about research. So just drive and absolutely, read and follow your passion.
So I would add a quick note to that. When I started out as an undergrad, I was not picky. I just wanted some kind of research experience. The first lab I did in undergrad was a plant research lab, so it was a completely different animal. I did some research with Dr. Ali, it was also completely different. And now I'm in a yeast lab. So I'm just open to anything. Be open to experience anything. You never know what is the thing that you actually like. You can say, oh, I want this exam. And then you go in and you're like, I'm lacking certain things that I want to develop, like my communication skills, my benchwork skills, and stuff like that.
So how do you guys deal with failure or obstacles regarding the research study, and what does that kind of rerouting process look like if you encounter those?
That's a great question. And this is what's research. It's not always you'll find your answer. And the failure will be more than the success, let me tell you. So you need to be patient very much, and you start again, which is okay. The data, like in my research, it's the data, what the data will tell you. You'll have a question in mind, but you cannot answer the question till you get to the data. If this is not, you can either go to a different direction or start from scratch again. But be persistent and be patient. Any guys? I think there was a questions in the back. Yeah.
My question is, how do you see what you research get applied clinically?
I can't hear you.
How do you see what you research get applied clinically?
Oh, that's wonderful. Absolutely. There are two. When you start, this is what you should have in mind, that how this will affect the patient. In my pathology, research, we have two types of question. Is this one prognosticator, or is this affecting the treatment? So, at the end, it's your patient. how this will affect. So you'll start with a mindset that this will affect either treatment or prognosis or finding some kind of, how would I say, antibody or target therapy for the patient. So this is what you start in mind. Would you reach or not? That's a very long goal, and you would hope for that, for sure. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
I think there were a few more hands.
Okay, Aziyad, just to give him preference.
What advice do you have for students transitioning into independent projects and taking on more responsibility in their lives?
No, repeat again, sorry.
What advice do you have for students who are transitioning to work on independent projects and just taking on more responsibility in the lab of their work?
That's great. This is what everybody would love to see, an independent student and looking at taking a project individually, part of the big project. This is your questions. Well, number one, you need to be so dedicated, working so hard, and always involve your mentor with what you're doing, because they will guide you through what you will reach. So definitely don't go completely venture by yourself. Ask them and stay under their umbrella, but they love seeing somebody like us doing your own project and applying by yourself and for an abstract platform and even a grant. This is a dream for any lab, believe me. Okay. Go ahead.
Do you have any resources that you can share with us, especially with virtual opportunities for somebody who cannot leave the house with a 4 months old girl that she's trying to participate with us today?
Yeah, it's so wonderful to have like the youngest NAAMA NextGen.
Sorry,
You know, 4 months old. That's beautiful. I'm sure there is a lot in the, NAAMA itself, we have a venture like a research, NAAMA NextGen. I believe it's in the website as well. And we tried to have the mentorship. So you would find mentors that they do research. Like for instance, I do a lot of research and I tell everybody, my cell phone is public information for you only guys. And my email, the same. So you can email me and we'll guide you at Wayne State University. And there are so many mentors that they might either get you shadowing or get you research in their clinic or in their lab. And this is the way I would say, or venture in the internet, right? There is a lot of information.
Thank you.
Sure.
What's the time frame for how long somebody would stay in the research? Like, how long would you say people would stay until they feel satisfied and move on to a project?
I think this is a tough question, and it is individual based and lab based. Or like I have students, they don't stay more than 1 year with me. And I don't want them to stay more than 1 year with me. I want them to keep going for the next level, you know? So it depends. I cannot answer. But it could be like the undergrad, if you're in one lab and staying with that lab, that would be wonderful. And this is what they like in your application, guys. They don't want you to jump from lab to lab. That you have one goal and you are committed to this lab and you're finishing with this lab. Okay, I believe so. And I know we have a great presenter